Hello and welcome to today's Elevate and Empower event on AI and automation tools for leaders. My name is Elizabeth Pravat, your technical producer for today's event. If you run into any trouble, please use the chat feature to contact me directly, and I will help you through that. The Elevate and Empower program is a spotlight on leadership and learning, and it aims to enhance the skills and knowledge of VBA leaders and aspiring leaders at various grade levels through our monthly training. Before we get started, I would like to go on over a few housekeeping notes. We are recording today's event. Your microphone has been muted by default when you entered the room, but you are encouraged to type comments and use the reaction features, ask questions in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat throughout the event, and any questions that you pose, I will hold till the end of the session and will ask of our presenter at that time. I also want to let you know that live captioning has been enabled in Teams. To use this, click the More Actions button, which is the three dots at the top of the screen. Click on the Language and Speech option, select Live Captions, select English, and then click Confirm. Finally, your feedback is very important to us, so at the conclusion of our event, a link to a brief survey will appear, and we would love to hear what you have to say about our content today. So at this time, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Riley Ross, who is an IT program manager with VA's Office of Information Technology. Mr. Ross, we're honored that you're here with us today, and the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, everybody. Hope everyone is well. So I am going to do the risky thing of walking and talking at the same time, or walking and chewing gum, walking, talking, no gum. Uh, um, as we talk about this, right? So, some of the big topics of today are, and I'm going to enlarge this a little bit for everyone to be able to see, but are, automation, AI. What does this mean? What does this mean? Definitely like in a global sense, but also, what does it mean for the work that you're doing? What does it mean in all right, here, let me go full screen mode. In the sense of, as a leader within a government organization, VA, how can I use what's going on as a part of my job? So a little bit about my background. Uh, I um, I started in VA in 2009. So I was hired off the street in Waco, Texas. Shout out to Central Texas as an RVSR. I just got done with Baylor, so March 2009. And then as an RVSR, started rating cases, started going into training. In fact, I was with Elizabeth at Challenge Training some 16 and a half years ago now. So that was a great time for us in Baltimore. And but after about a year and some change, I transferred to the Muskogee regional office and was an RVSR there. And I found that I sort of like found my niche or niche, depending on how you want to say that, within like TBI claims. I did a ton of GWAT stuff at the time, and I got the opportunity, and um, I had built out this sort of like programmatic tool, and I'm not even a programmer. So what I'm about to say is going to be like very, not necessarily like dumbed down, but like although I'm like a technologist, I am not a programmer or a coder. And so this isn't going to be like a very tech forward conversation, but I applied sort of like programmatic stepwise thinking to approach TBI ratings, because TBI ratings were very new. This was like pre 2010 NEMR even. And so through some of the stuff that I did with TBI and distinguishing it from mental illness, I got an opportunity to work on um, the what you guys might remember as the DENT tool, the Disability Evaluation Narrative Text tool. That morphed into some VBMS rating stuff at the front end of VBMS rating, or VBMSR as we called it. And so, sort of like one little modernization opportunity beget another, and I was able to sort of like follow this flow. So fast forward to now, I'm the IT program manager. I'm an IT program manager and the acting director of the education product line. And we just had a big release recently within our space, Digital GI Bill Release 8. And DGIB Release 8 is the sort of like culminating piece that allows for the retirement of the BDN mainframe, which is something they've been talking about for a while, at least like since I joined VA. In 2009, there was always this BDN is going away. Well, it's finally here, and we were able to do it. And I bring all that up. I feel like it's necessary context to talk about some of the ways in which we are leveraging automation, and some of the ways we are looking at leveraging AI for the future. Okay. So if you get any questions within this structure or within this presentation, pop them in the chat. We'll discuss them. I think we got a couple, Elizabeth, Jonathan, we're looking at it. And so we'll try to respond to that. But I'm just going to do some context setting. We're going to talk about AI versus automation, like what's the difference? What are some types of automation? What are some types of AI? What I believe are really helpful ways for thinking about and engaging with generative AI specifically. And then maybe hopefully lay out for all of us a sort of like leader's playbook on how to engage with the tools, how to approach the tools. And then we're actually going to do some live action stuff. So I'm going to show y'all some automations that I have in place and some of the ways that I engage with VA GPT. And then yeah, we'll have some Q&A after. Okay. So like, what's the difference between AI and automation? Because a lot of times people say, you'll hear people complain about AI or say a thing is AI when it's not even AI at all, right? We're just talking about automation. So what is automation? Automation is simply just rules-based, repeatable, predictable patterns that can be deployed to accomplish some of your like administrative tasks. So think about macros. Think about you actually see the word rules in Microsoft Outlook, which we'll look at this here pretty soon. Any sort of like deployable scripts, deployable bots. All it is like a set of repeatable steps that you can do. You can actually, on your iPhone, you can actually build, or assuming you have an iPhone, you can build your own automation workflows on your phone so that if you do the same thing every day, which is you wake up, you check your email, you check Slack, you check the weather, you can build out an automation flow on your iPhone to go from email to Slack to weather just like that, based off of like when you get up and start engaging with it. Okay. So AI it's more pattern based. We have here adaptive, sometimes surprising, right? Depending on like the type of AI tool that you use. The most prominent example right now is probably ChatGPT. People use ChatGPT in a number of ways. Maybe not necessarily correct ways. We're not necessarily here to debate that today, what is good and what is bad, but a lot of people are using it in exchange for like a Google search. Whether or not that's appropriate is sort of like a different conversation. Google Gemini is a form of like conversational GPT, VA GPT, which is what we're going to be looking at today. And then just like a quick word on the presentation today and on generative AI in general. is everything that we're going to be looking at is approved for use within the agency. There are a ton of examples in the world, right? You're going to hear about Claude, you're going to hear about Opus, you're going to hear about Ask Sage. So there's a ton of language models and AI use cases out there that aren't necessarily approved for broader VA use, but that, depending on the use case, are being explored right now. So that's just the disclaimer. And I think I really applaud the leadership group for bringing this training out, because hopefully it's going to get us to start thinking about how we use and how we interact with these tools, because it is going to balloon a little bit. And like, as things get more secure across the federal government and allowed for use, we're going to have to deploy more and more of these. So I put a little Venn diagram on here to show where automation and AI sort of like meet up with us in the purple as leaders, right? So think of automation as your reliable assistant. Think of AI as your smart advisor, maybe like a junior, senior advisor, something that you're willing to engage with. I've really found that as a leader, like, if you've got any sort of awareness, or if you have any sort of like internal feeling about what your deficits are, you can sort of like engage with AI in a way, and automation for that sake, to help fill those deficits. So let's talk about automation real quick. Some of the helpful questions that you can ask yourself about whether or not an automation would be appropriate. Hold on. There we go. Raised it up for you guys. Is where is a friction that I have? Where am I where am I wasting my time? But also, like, what are some sections of my life where I would like to spend less time? Okay. So automation is really good for email status checks. You ever send an email and you have to follow up, or you say in the email that this is due by close of business Friday, and you want to send a reminder email on Thursday at close of business so that someone can get it on Friday, or you want to get it Wednesday midday so that they have it by close of business Thursday because you're afraid they might be out on Friday. That's what you can set up an automation for. Like, you don't have to rely on your notebook, which is still handy. Like a manual notebook is handy, but you can set up or direct people on your team to send out these status checks, or to set up an automation so that they can send out a status check. You know what I mean? Reporting, data analysis, like I know that we have like a wide audience on here, from a regional office level to central office. Automation and setting up rules-based processing so that you can solicit for and collect feedback from people on your team so that you can collect data. You can set up Tableau reporting, Power BI, all sorts of like smart spreadsheets for data analysis and tracking within an automation workflow. You could set up form pre-filling, similar to status checks, little behavioral nudges or reminders. Again, I mentioned Microsoft Power BI. We'll look at a little bit of this here in a second, because I've got a couple of examples that I want to show everybody. And then auto routing approvals. This one, we definitely have an example for that I'll show you soon, because sometimes in the approval workflow, in the passing around of PDFs from point to point, things occasionally get lost. I, for one, am not great about checking email all the time. I'm a much better engager with Teams and chat. And so how do we use some of the approval workflows within Microsoft, especially Microsoft Teams workflows, to auto route approvals? So we're going to look at that in a live case. AI, types of AI. So we might spend a little time on this. In the news, you'll hear AI. You'll see AI images of things. You'll see AI, like news articles about AI. AI is making us dumber. AI is making us better. The AI balloon is or bubble is about to burst. Like that, there's a ton out there about AI, but whenever people talk about AI, like what exactly do they mean? Like I think 2 years ago, when we started exploring AI, Chat GPT hit the market. I guess that was actually 3 years ago now. It was kind of exciting, but then it also became a cliched thing where people where people would talk about Terminator 2 and Skynet and all those things that came along with it. And so I think it's really helpful to distinguish between really just like the big groups of AI. So whenever we talk about artificial intelligence, the buckets in which those conversations take place are the following. So you have machine learning, you have large language models, you have computer vision, robotics and intelligent automation, and then conversational AI. Chat GPT, VA GPT, Gemini, those are a combination of like conversational and large language models because they are fed by information that exists on the internet. They process that information and then they give us an output, and they give us the output in whatever way we sort of like dictate and determine. So you have your source material, you have your processing, and then you have your outbound material. What's neat about that is what's neat and what's maybe bad about that is that it requires a certain level of consciousness on our behalf to give it very specific direction. Like if you communicate with it poorly, or if there's this expression in generative AI which is crap in, crap out. But sometimes people don't say crap, but it's only as good as what you give it, and that includes the direction and that includes the source material. Okay. Machine learning is something that's gaining a little bit of ground in where it actually it's not a static process. So where that middle layer of the processing, it's learning from the give and take that is happening between the source text, between how you interact with it, and the little course corrections. The machine can the machine, right? The machine, the code, the programming can get better. And so it gets better with predictive analysis. It gets better with fraud protection. Whenever you hear of, I'm trying to think of an example, like Palantir, right? Palantir being one of those things where it takes a little bit of computer vision, but the machine learning, like it learns and recognizes the patterns within people's buying behavior, people's movement behavior, and it makes predictions about what's going to happen based off of past behavior. There's not a ton of like necessarily machine learning much in the VBA space right now, but this could be helpful with statistical models on the VHA side about predicting diseases or the likelihood of improvement based off of certain interventions. Computer vision, that's kind of standard, right? Like we see that's not necessarily what we're deploying. Like whenever we get, I think the simple like methodology for this is, if let's say VA were to get evidence of an event, right? Like if there was a need to analyze images beyond just the text that someone might write down on an application, we could potentially use this. We might see more of this in increased security measures. I think whenever you go through the airport and it's doing a scan of you, that way you're using a little bit of a combination of computer vision and machine learning there. And then the intelligent automation and robotics as well. Um, so yeah, so the term AI could mean a lot or a combination of all of those things that we discuss. So maybe some of the helpful ways of thinking about AI that I found is, so specifically for us as leaders, and not just managers. Part of the question is like, not necessarily like, what can I do with this tool or what is it for? But just thinking within yourself, like, what problem am I trying to solve? Can this tool help me? What are some of the deficits that I might have that I need help with? And how can I interact with the tool to sort of like fill those gaps, right? So it's helpful going back to my example where I started with of TBI, like how do I break my work into steps? Like applying programmatic thinking, applying if then thinking. And if you can apply a flow chart of if this, then that, yes or no, how do I get not necessarily the result that I want, but maybe like the result that I need? And then align your prompts. And when I say prompts, I mean like that's what we put into the AI tool. Align your prompts to be one of your staffers, one of the people that you're willing to engage with. Or I say people, one of the things that you're willing to engage with. All right. So let's get into it. I have got I'm going to pull up my Office 365, which you all should have some version of this as well. Give me 1 second. Go on. Okay, cool. All right, so let's first look at some automations. So I am going to pull up Teams. I see that we have a few questions out there. So in Teams, cool little emoji. Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. Thank you, Michelle. I should have said that instead of crap. Okay, so if you open up Teams, right, and go down to apps, you are going to have, you should have access to all this. I don't think I have special access that you all don't have. And maybe that's a thing that I should have planned out before. But you can open up this right here. You'll see the word workflows. Okay. And if you select that, open it, and it's going to add workflows to your apps down here on that triple dot, the little ellipses. So you can open up your various workflows. So I have created a few workflows that I find handy. Give it a sec. It knows that I'm giving a presentation, so it's going to move just like a little bit slower. And so the two workflows that I have running are follow up on a message. So that is if there is a follow-up needed on an email message, I can get a prompt in Teams. So I said earlier, I'm more of a Teams engager than I am an Outlook engager. That's just, that's my red flag. So, but that's part of it. And that's a helpful tool for me though, knowing that I can get that message. This one is also one that I don't love to use too much, but that it is extremely helpful. So inform users that you will be running late to a meeting. So how you get that is just a real easy setup. If you click on new flow or create up here on your bar, it will take you to a whole list of templates, and you can actually create from a blank one if you're willing to engage with it a little bit, or you can search for templates for like things that make sense to you. Since I already have this meeting in my meeting reminder in place, you might not see it, but if you do a quick little search, um, yeah, notify of cancel meeting, find a meeting time with center. So I already have mine in place, but we'll just kind of go through this really quickly. With these icons, it tells you what the interplay of systems is. So you're going to have it's going to look on Outlook 365. It's going to involve Teams, and it's going to create a flow between all of these like different users. And when you click on it, it can actually tell you meetings will scan your calendar, whatever your primary calendar is, every 30 minutes to check for any recent canceled meetings. Like if you're the person that receives a lot of canceled meetings and you want to get notification of it, this is a good one for you. So when a canceled meeting is discovered, the automation will remove them from your calendar automatically, and you won't be notified, or you will be notified that a meeting has been canceled and removed from your calendar within Teams. Super handy. I can see the value of this. I know that this doesn't necessarily help me, so I'm not really going to set this one up, but I will show you what happens. So if you've got a workflow set up, what happens is this right here. So I've got the one that said that can let the meeting know that you're running behind. So 5 minutes before a meeting is about to start, look, I just got one in. It lets you know the meeting is BAT-RES integration, who the organizer is, and you can send a message to that group chat, and it'll just say, I'll be joining the BAT-RES integration meeting in a few minutes late. And I'll just put, or not at all. Thanks. And then I can send it, and it confirms. They're going to get a weird message from me, but it's just going to say Riley Ross will not join that meeting. And you can see right here, BAT-RES integration from me. I'll be joining BAT-RES integration late or not at all. So it lets them know exactly what happened, which is pretty great, you know? So again, it's that little ellipses right there, and you can set up your rules and your flows or start working with people on your team to look for those in ways that could sort of like improve your productivity. All right, just looking here at the time, I got a few more to get through. But I did want to show you a couple things as well in Outlook, because there's a ton of super helpful rules and automations that you can go through within Outlook. Okay, quick way to do it. I have got one set up. You ever get CC'd as a supervisor? Do you ever get CC'd on emails? I've got this. I know you do, but you don't necessarily need to read them all, right? You are informed, and I guess that's your choice. But I've got a folder here that's called CC, and when I'm not on the to line and I'm only on the CC line, I want it to go here because I know my people. I trust that my people are on top of it, but they might want to call my attention to it, and so I'll have a place. I don't want them deleted. And that's actually super easy to set up. So you go to here, let me do it again. You go to File right there. Go down to Manage Rules and Alerts. And then you can actually create a new rule and go through the process of, and I know this is being recorded so we can refer back to it later, but apply rule on messages I receive. Next. And you're building it out one step at a time, right? apply rule on messages that I received where my name is on the CC box. What do you want to do with the message? I want to, in my case, I chose to move a copy to the specified folder. And in this case, you have to select specified, and then you have to specify which folder you want to put it in. Okay. We're going to say the CC folder. Okay. Next. And then are there any exceptions? And I guess I would say, except if the message is marked as important, or except if my name is also on the to line. And then I could select finish and run, and it will create that rule, run the rule, and from point forward, start sending everything that's on where I'm CC'd into the CC box. Makes sense? So you could do that. There's also delay emails. Do you also send out newsletters to your folks? There's a way to set up there's a way to set it up within Outlook so that you get reminders to send your weekly newsletters to your team. And you can sort of like do that on Wednesday and program it to run on, not program it, but set the automation rule to run on Thursday. So there's a ton out there, and I'll also quickly show you on the Power Automate screen. So we all have access to this as well. It's within our Microsoft Office 365 for Power Automate, but you can literally like go through, set up all the different like automations that you want to set up. An approvals workflow, you have access to an approvals workflow within Teams as well. Where you can, if you don't want to do the passing back and forth of various PDFs, but you have multiple approvals that you need to get through, and you want to have like a track, a record of all the approvals, you can actually create a new approval workflow. And then here, I'll just actually do it real quick. Approval of AI presentation, right? And then I can type in here, Elizabeth can have the first round. And then if I do require responses in the assigned order, Elizabeth has the first round, and like Jonathan Stoops has the second round. And if I hit send, and I can even assign a priority to it, and they have to approve it in this order. So once they receive it, Elizabeth will have the first go, Jonathan will have the second go. And then what happens, and I'll like attach the presentation. And once I hit send, they get a Teams workflow, which will generate from that workflow a PDF. And that PDF shows the historical record of every approval that was given. And obviously, like this is something else, right? This is a configuration request, but it's something for your records. It's something official, and it actually works. So think about that. And then AI, right? So if you may or may not be a part of it, but VA has rolled out its own GPT, its own AI generative AI tool. And there is a community of practice for the VA GPT. And it's pretty cool based off of how you work with it, right? So I had a couple that I wanted to show you. So let's go with dev LOE thread. So I had a question a while ago. Like I said earlier, I'm not a developer, but I have this ask. So, and I need to give roughly a level of effort. And even if you don't, depending on where you are in leadership, you don't actually have to give a level of effort, but you do need to know like what questions to ask in order to get a level of effort based off of what it is that you want, right? And so the most information you can give it, the better. So just, I need to give a level of effort for all the teams that may have a role to play in a development effort, which has in the development effort, like it's its own. I should have said software development, but it knew what I was talking about, thankfully. The request is for a front-facing system to provide data to external end users with data that's provided by a back-end system in a modern and seamless way. The back-end system is the authoritative data source of the requested data, and it's a vendor-led managed service. As I imagine it, there's development needed by back-end authoritative data source system to store, look up, and provide the data via API. Then the data would need to be transmitted via existing services or available through an API. The receiving system will need to process and calculate that data through a web application team. And then I say, what am I missing? And so it goes through, it figures all that out, and it basically like tells you what you need to develop a level of effort for this. So you have to have what's business requirements, what's required of the business, and what's is there like a project management consideration? So it tells you like the role that business analysts would play and project managers. And then you get into the nuts and bolts of it. So system architecture and design, for a full level of effort, you're going to need architects. You're going to need an API development team and the type of work that API development team is going to do. You have to have your middleware layer and data security teams for all that data transmission stuff. Is it information? Is it encrypted at rest? Is it not? Here's everything that's needed from the front end team to, what sort of development are they going to use? What's the user experience going to be like? So it really goes through quality assurance and testing, operations and infrastructure, documentation and training. So you get like the 30,000-foot view. And so I ask it, so considering the work, can you group the level of effort of each group on a scale of high, medium, or low? And so it does that. From a business analysis standpoint, medium and what it is. Medium for project managers, high for architects, relatively low for the infrastructure team, low for the training and technical writers. So obviously, like it gives us a lot of details. It's up to us, the humans, to validate the type of information that it's giving us. But it's extremely helpful when you are trying to do something in the realm of your weakness, or if you're trying to get caught up to speed. Now, some of you guys read that, and this is completely fine. And you might not know what it means. And so you can sort of up the ante. And I did this just before this meeting. And you can sort of up the ante and ask it to break things down even further. So I told the generative AI tool, you are a programming expert. And this isn't an awesome prompt, but I want to show it to you in the realm of like, here's what it's capable of doing. So you're a programming expert. Explain to me, like a 7-year-old, the differences between Visual Basic, VB6, C++, Java, and Ruby on Rails. Most of the people on this call are not coders or programmers. So what does it mean? What are the differences? Why, when you hear the, and granted, you shouldn't hear Visual Basic or VB6 much anymore, but I mean, we're using some of that stuff. I mean, we're just now retiring a COBOL mainframe. And so it tells you in an analogy that it created using building blocks and toy blocks. Here's what Visual Basic is. It's toy blocks that come with instructions to build simple machines. It's great for beginners because it helps you make basic programs and easy to follow steps. C++ is, imagine you have some advanced blocks with a lot of little pieces that can fit together in many different ways. This is what C++ is like. It gives you a lot of control and power, but you need to spend more time learning it. So uh, um, it's more narrative, but that's what they mean by generative AI. Like it generates AI based off of the information that it's been able to receive. Now, in this version 1.0.240, this is using, I believe, like a 2023 version of the internet, and a lot of things. I can't remember what version of the VA intranet is on here, but this is a secure platform. Obviously, like don't put PII in here. Don't put any identifying information. It's not outbound. You can only access this through the VA firewall, but you have access to VA intranet information in here. And so it's really helpful to be able to combine what you have access to that's relatively proprietary, VA specific, and then what is on some version of the internet. I know that occasionally VBA will get roped into discussions about business requirements, right? Someone might say, like, write a user story for that. You know, I know some of you have heard that. Some of you maybe haven't. Some of you, lucky few, have been told to never write a user story, but some of you have. So I just wanted to say, like, what does it look like to implement a piece of functionality? Like, if you have functionality in your brain, you can ask the tool to help you write a user story. If you already have the user story, you can give it a prompt like this. So I wrote it a user story. I said, here's a user story. As a customer, I want to be able to scan barcodes on products using my mobile phone camera so that I can view detailed information about the product, including reviews, price, and availability, like in a store. I need you to act. This is me talking to the AI. I need you to act as a technical requirements and business requirements analyst to ask me questions about the benefits and features, look for holes, and help me drive to a more complete user story with some assumptions. And so it says, okay, sure, let's deep dive into it. Who's your primary target audience for this feature? Are there specific demographics or user personas we should consider? I think both of those things would make it much better. If I said I'm a 50-year-old veteran that lives in Wisconsin, you know, that might affect the outcome and the assumptions that you're working with. Will this feature support products from a specific store or a wide range of retailers? Are there limitations to the types of products that can be scanned? So it asks you about the product itself, the user experience, any sort of like competitive analysis that's done on similar barcode scanning features elsewhere. And is it compatible with the platform? So it can really like, and third-party integrations, which is a lot of what we're doing right now in the IT space. Assume that we will use third-party APIs for gathering product reviews or other external data. How do we get access to that data? So it's going to lead you, like if you tell it to ask you and bounce ideas off of you, it will bounce those ideas off of you. And you can include them or you can not include them, but they help guide you down a path. And I know that I have a couple more minutes and we do want to field some questions. So I'll show you one last thing as well. I know that specifically at the RO level, we might have to start a project, a short-term project, ideally. I mean, the ideal situation for all projects is they're short-term, right? You don't want to too often do they become permanent. Like like my central office detail 16 years ago. But so I gave it this little tasker, right? I described the project that I have going. In fact, hold on, let me scroll down a little bit. There we go. I'm standing up a project decommission for the benefits delivery network mainframe. We're building out functionality to replace this legacy mainframe under different products and associated projects called Digital GI Bill and Empower VA. Those are very robust, mature programs. The BDN retirement project is relatively new and the scope is very narrow. And this is all a lie, by the way. The biggest goals of the project are to migrate the legacy master records in the form of a data dump into a queryable database in cool or cold storage within the cloud or in on-prem servers, on-premise servers. Help me come up with a project plan as well as project planning artifacts and deliverables that I would need. And please suggest some of those steps, consideration, and proposed scope of the project. And so sure enough, it starts in on, it gives you very high level information, but very usable, immediately usable. Based off of what you gave us, it gives me a project plan with a plan overview section, objectives, what's in scope, what's out of scope, what the phases are going to be: planning, data extraction, data transformation and loading, data storage, verification and validation, decommissioning, and project closure. So what does the definition of done look like for this thing? And then it suggests for you a work breakdown structure, a risk management plan, a comms plan, a data extraction plan, very usable, actionable things that you can get going on right now. So if you have in your office like a budding project manager that wants to get involved and like see how things work according to PMBOK 5, PMBOK 6, and some of those things, you could put them on this path and they can start immediately doing things for you. And then taking it to the next level, setting up automations, setting up actionable next steps to chip away at those. And then you can start tracking it, tracking project success through Microsoft Planner and other automation tools. So I'm encouraging you now to just like start small, start thinking a little bit bigger about what you can do with it, not using it as an administrative tool, not necessarily using like generative AI as a Google search. That's not what we're going for. We're trying to think about, how does this help me be better? How does this help me do more with less? How can I fill my deficits with some of these tools in a really, really quick way? And how can I be like a little bit more creative? Or how can this tool help me be a little bit more creative? If you're already super versed in all this, that's fantastic. It might make sense at your local level or at your smaller level, like to have some office hours where you talk about it, like from a stakeholder management perspective, get some change champions on your side, and then have some like your own little regional community of practice for AI and automation that can get you down the path of like small experiments. And what that'll do is like set us up for success as VA unleashes and really approves and unleashes more AI tools for broader consumption. You'll be ahead of the change curve, and I think your ability to adopt some of those new tools will be greatly improved. I like to think of it in terms of like AI and automation. They're not here to replace leaders. These tools can be leveraged in a way that makes us better at our job and does put us in a position of like the realities of on the ground are we are being asked to do more with less. And so how exactly do we do that? They can help remove the noise so that we can like actually focus in on what we need to focus in on and allow us to delegate even better. So I'm gonna finish up now, and I'll continue to start sharing my screen. But Elizabeth, I don't know if we had some questions come in, but maybe we can field a couple of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Riley, for that thoughtful presentation and demonstration. Definitely got me thinking on things that I can do immediately and put to use. Thinking back to kind of the start of your demo when you were going through the workflow segment, Juliana in the chat had some like red exclamation points by some of the apps versus a green check mark. I'm thinking that she's asking how to resolve that. So I'm thinking maybe an IT ticket would help to get some of that access restored so she can use all of those apps together.
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. So like I assume we're talking about like in this section down here or on the lower bar where it says apps. Some of
Yeah,
these
it
were
looked like
available.
she put a screenshot in the chat, but when she was trying to access the Office 365 and have those integrated into the
Hmm.
Flow
Yeah.
function, it wasn't all connecting. So I'm thinking maybe an IT ticket could help her resolve that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I put in a ServiceNow ticket, you know, and I found some pretty good luck putting in ServiceNow tickets.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hmm.
And so we've got some other questions about, is there any additional AI training that you've had that you found very beneficial through that's available to VBA employees? And what is your favorite AI tool that you found benefit from?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm gonna have two I got two answers for this, right? So in my regular like in my non-VA life, I have found there's one really, really great tool or one really, really great video on YouTube. Um, oh shoot, I don't have it up, but he's like an associate professor at Stanford. He's the associate professor of like entrepreneurship and creativity at Stanford. But there's a really great 10 to 15 minute long video where he's really like trying to frame um, how you interact with AI so that you can use it to be like more creative. And a lot of what people are doing, well, at least what he's advocating for in that is to kind of like how to level up as a leader. So rather than asking it questions, um, to get you or to come up with an answer. You're instructing the AI, or he's a strong advocate of instructing the AI to ask you questions, like not as a therapist, but similar to how I was showing you of like find gaps in some of the work that I'm proposing. Can you help find problems with what I'm doing here? That's helpful. So but let me answer the second part of that. In terms of like AI training for some of the agency tools, I would say there is, I haven't taken much in the way of training, but on the VHA side, they put together, um, some 15-minute long, easily digestible trainings. Um, Excuse me. AI inventory, where they could talk about how to leverage VA GPT for different things. So if this is the first time you're seeing VA GPT, this is where I'm getting to. There's a really great community of practice within teams. So if you sign up for the GPT beta, which they might be just widespread adoption now, and the beta thing might be over, but within the sort of like AI community practice, all things AI community of practice, there is a list of prompts, like a prompt library that they've put out. And it's basically, it's quote unquote like open source, right? Everybody can put their prompts into um, this list, essentially this Microsoft list, so that you can see how other people are leveraging their different prompts. And I'm trying to find it in real time, but you have some like attachments in here. The user guide, you can see how other people are using prompts, see how they're interacting with the generative AI tool. And I found that to be like super helpful. You can use it to write There's really, really good prompts that I've done about like writing standard operating procedures off of meeting recordings or meeting minutes. Like, can you turn this video transcript into a standard operating procedure? And it's the coolest thing ever because it really does. And then all you have to do is like tweak the formatting of the Word document, and you've taken 2 days worth of work and condensed it down to probably like 30 minutes. So there's some really cool stuff in that AI inventory.
That will be a huge time saver. And we can, if you want to send me that link, once you're able to find that team, I can send that
Oh yeah,
out to the group afterwards.
for sure.
And we also had Charles put in the chat a vision that he had, so to speak. And this might be kind of in line with what you had suggested, Riley, of just putting your vision into the generative AI section and like helping you work through how to make it come to life. So Charles, that might be something that you take away with those ideas you placed in the chat. But Charles also had another question about, does VA have any tools available to us where we can upload a document and have the document be reviewed by the AI tool to look for certain things?
Well, okay, so it kind of depends. Now, if it is, and this gets back to the second question that missed. There was another part of that, like, Riley, what's your favorite AI tool? Uh, um, so in my public life, like that isn't VA, just as a person, right? I really like Google's Notebook LLM because Notebook large language model does a like comparative analysis between a couple of documents or like many documents. And so you can give it all the documents and then you can give it a prompt to find the differences related to a particular subject. And then it'll spit out like all the sections in all of the documents where that comparison like showed up. And so that's really, really cool. Does VA have something that you can search for particular things? If you were to do a simple cut and paste into VA GPT of like either a document or a transcript or something, and you said to it, find me all the examples of what where if you post in this transcript and you say find all the timestamps where Riley said VA GPT, it would do that for you. It probably would not be able to do a comparative analysis on something that is a little bit more complicated, like let's say you have an acquisition document, like you're working on a contract, you're working on an acquisition, okay, and you wanted to see if certain wording, a certain subsection was FAR compliant, it probably would not have that capability, but it would probably tell you what FAR compliance is. So you could like mess around with it. Eventually, I do think we are going to get into either some tools in the future, because I've submitted a couple of use cases to acquire some new tools that do that are like FedRAMP compliant, FAR compliant, because I view the greatest opportunity, at least in my line of work as an IT PM, there is so much opportunity to be had in our acquisitions, like leveling the playing field with contractors and vendors so that the government can have much greater leverage in market research, development, business requirements, drafting, stuff like that. There's great opportunities to get ahead and make sure it's all FAR compliant, make sure it adheres to like time and materials and firm fixed price. Like there's a ton of opportunities in that realm. And so that, from my perspective, like that couldn't come fast enough.
Great. Yeah, that's a fantastic opportunity. And we had quite a few sleuths in the chat here putting the links to the prompt channel. So thank you all for doing that. If you're interested in joining, you can access that there. And someone else shared a YouTube video about AI. And one thing that someone pointed out and somebody else confirmed, the VA Chat GPT does say that it was last trained with data up to October 2023. So I think that's worth keeping in mind. when you're working with that tool, like what is the data
Mhm.
that it's working with? And Riley, do you have any insight about how often, if that will be getting updated and pushed with new data?
No, not yet. I mean, I think it's something that they're constantly trying to look at. This was an agent that was developed in-house, and so which is kind of impressive. But I also think to maintain the high security standards that we have, what we give up is like the most up-to-date thing.
Yes, very valid. Well, we're at the top of nearing the top of the hour, so I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Riley Ross, for being with us today, sharing your insights and demonstrations. And to our audience, thank you so much for your engagement and asking such great questions and being with us here today. I did place a survey in the chat if you wouldn't mind letting us know what you thought of today's training. And please, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I can circle those up to Riley and maybe get some additional answers to you. But again, we appreciate everyone's time today, and thank you so much for being here. That is the end of our event. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.